Jacksonville State Gamecocks 41, FIU Panthers 16. This is your Paws Up podcast post-game show with Jake Gibson. I'm Kevin Barral. Tough game tonight. No other way to say it. FIU, just like we saw against UTEP, goes down 21-0 in just the first quarter. Kejuan Jenkins is sacked 3 times. And then going to the second half, a change is made. Grayson James enters the game at quarterback for the FIU Panthers. And this ends up after throwing for 200 yards, completing, I believe, 18 of his 12 20 passes. Overall, just good stuff from Grayson tonight, but just not enough as a horrible call. And I even like over there, called a cat. I've never heard of this one. Pass catch interference or catch interference?
They called it a kick catch interference. That's what the referee said. I think the actual terminology is fair catch interference.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Whatever it is, it was a ridiculous call, right? There's just no putting around it. We can look at the replay as slow as we want to. And that returner was not touched at all when he was waiting for the ball. As soon as the ball left his hands, he was then touched by a player. But at that time, it was already a fumble, and the players were scrambling for the ball. I think it was a ridiculous penalty. It was in the midst of a moment where FIU was trying to get back to the game. They were doing a good job because Grayson James actually had a really nice second half, right?
Yep.
Coach McIntyre talked about it. The FIU offense needed a spark. Jenkins was not working, having a rough night. Grayson stepped in. The offensive line actually blocked for him, which was great to see.
Yeah.
And he made some pretty great passes. So that was absolutely the turning point of this game, and it was just disastrous all the way after that.
Yeah. Let's quickly talk about Kejuan. Obviously, plays in that first half, goes 2 for 8, has only, I believe, I'm trying to find it, 18 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 sacks.
Yeah.
It's not a good night for him overall. He was taken out entering there, and Coach Mack mentioned just trying to get something going there with someone else. And Grayson, obviously, I mean, 12 for 20, 200 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
He had, and honestly, that touchdown, he had a passing touchdown and a rushing. Let's talk first give us your thoughts on Kejuan, and then let's talk about that passing touchdown, which is by far the play of the year for the Panthers. That one-handed snap by Chris Mitchell that should go on ESPN.
That is absolutely a top 10 nominee. And if it's not, that's robbed, just like that penalty.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jenkins, I mean, he just did not have that much time in the pocket. Plays could not progress. He had to run around, either gain a couple yards on the run, or he had to throw out of bounds, or just throw to incomplete receivers. And granted, he didn't throw an interception, which was great to see. But
he was close.
He was close, but he didn't. But Jenkins just overall had a very rough night. He just didn't have those connections with Mitchell and Patterson, and the running game also didn't really do him any favors there in the first half. But it's clear, it is absolutely clear the offense as a whole adjusted in that second half. The offensive line played better. The receivers and tight ends got more open. The running game also worked every now and then. And of course, they put in Grayson, and that was it felt like the missing key, like a key opened the lock, and all of a sudden FIU's offense was booming, but it was too little, too late. As it would turn out at that point. This is now the second straight week.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
I do believe FIU had a really good chance.
They had a chance.
If they had gotten that punt.
Yes.
I think they had a really good chance to
Jacksonville State. Because Jacksonville State prior to that had 0 momentum. They had no momentum to spare. The fans that were here, they were popping off, right? They were witnessing a really good comeback in the making, and that penalty.
That would have been the largest. Yeah. That would have been the biggest comeback win in FIU history.
It would have been. But at the same time, of course, let's not beat around the bush here. This is the second straight home game in which FIU has given up 21 points off the rip. It's tough to win football games regardless of who you face when you do stuff like that.
Really quickly, just to kind of wrap it up here, looking at the Jacksonville State Gamecocks side of things. Zion Webb runs for 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ron Wiggins, who took most of the reps tonight, he runs for 61 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Malik Jackson, who was suited up and ready to play, their leading rusher this season, only goes for 9 carries, 41 yards. And Zion Webb finishes going 9 for 19, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. Yeah.
With the exception of Zion, I think the FIU's rush defense didn't do all that bad. I mean, again,
in the second half.
Yeah,
first half, you give up over 100 yards rushing.
You limit Wiggins and Jackson overall to under 100 yards each. It's not a bad game. And, of course, as we mentioned, another 100-yard a day for Chris Mitchell, by the way, receiving. He made that incredible snag. Wait, was it this side?
Right all the way.
It was that side. That was unbelievable, and probably the cool. Would you say the coolest play of FIU this season? I'd say probably
this. I was not able to watch it live. I was staring at my computer, grinding out a recap. But when I saw it on TV, that was definitely one of the coolest plays I've ever seen in FIU.
Yeah, like in person. Yes. And that was also probably the worst penalty I've ever seen in person. We keep bringing back the penalty, but it's just it was ridiculous. And yeah, it's tough to blame a loss entirely on a penalty, and we're not going to do that. It's just crazy that first the Dolphins against the Eagles, now FIU against Jacksonville State. There's a penalty that just turns the tides of the game, and regardless, I mean, kudos to Jacksonville State. They're obviously a very fantastic team, even though they can't compete for a title or a bowl game, which is still crazy.
Hopefully they do get into one, but I think we're going to wrap it up here. FIU falls to 4-5 on the season, 1-5 amongst the conference. All of their losses this season have come to Conference USA opponents.
Yeah.
And they will be heading over to Middle Tennessee, Murfreesboro, I believe.
After a week off, though. They do get a week off to recuperate.
They do, just kind of quickly previewing that. Not very good at Middle Tennessee historically. So
yeah,
if that is a loss, that kind of just does it on the season for FIU. They would have to win out the last 2 games against Arkansas and Middle and Western Kentucky. I mentioned this in my recap. This is probably the toughest stretch of the season for the Panthers. 4 games. They did this last season. They lost all 4. Hopefully that could change. But
by the way, I'm going to cut you off, Kevin. But as you mentioned, 2-game road trip, and now FIU has a very serious question they have to answer. Do they give Jenkins the ball back against Middle Tennessee, or do they keep rolling with what they saw at the end here with Grayson?
I'll have to look at the quote, but definitely McIntyre kind of stayed kind of leaning towards Keywan there.
Yeah.
He didn't say that anything was open. Keywan obviously has made a strong case to stay as the quarterback.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a lot of factors within the offense that kind of have limited him, but we won't mention those. We'll do that on next week's preview. But aside from that, I mean, yeah, I do think Keywan has a good shot at staying the starter, and they have wanted to protect Grayson's red shirt to see if that, I believe that gives him another year of eligibility. Yeah. So that would be nice in the case of Grayson. But man, if this offense is rounding around Grayson, if he is the one that makes this offense click, which we saw right away, you may have to go Grayson.
You never know. We got a fun week next week with the podcast. LaCorey on Monday. That should come out on Tuesday. Then maybe cooking something for football.
We'll cook something later. We'll see. But aside from that, I think we're good to go here. From Jake, from myself, Johnny, who's not on here tonight, working the CBS stats. We'll see you guys all next week.
Shout out Billy Gill, by the way.
Shout out Billy Gill. Unfortunately, he's now 0-2 and has given up 42 points in only 1 quarter of action in 2 games already. But aside from that, my name's Kevin. Jake, Positive Podcast. Peace out. And as always, Paws up.
Paws up.